I'm really focusing my attention on how do I fix the problems and lead the effort to fix the problems here in Maine. And I do look at them, which is part of your concern, Lisa, as primarily very serious economic, fiscal, and job-related problems. I think the first thing we need to do is really have a business person who's not part of the political class, who has run a business like you have and understands complex financial issues like you do. That will be a big first step. And as you alluded to, Mark, there is wasteful spending in Maine. I mean, there is. And one of the problems we have in our programs is we don't have any performance metrics, so a lot of the programs are straight line funded and we don't know if they're working or not. So we have to, and I would, audit every state program and department and agency to make sure we can find that waste and eliminate redundancy, and then install performance metrics, and then hire professional managers to run these departments and agencies. But we have to fundamentally reduce the cost and the complexity of doing business in this state. If we can do that, then we will be able to attract business investment and jobs. But, you know, government only works if there's a healthy economy, private sector economy, because that generates the income through business and capital formation and what have you. So we need to make sure we do that. And if we do that, we'll be able to start turning the ship around. Otherwise, we're going to get more of the same. There are states that are perfectly solvent. I can make an argument to you that we're bankrupt. The state is, and it has not, Mark, you're absolutely right, come on like this. It's been really a generation of mismanagement and trying to be everything to everybody. And, you know, businesses, you know, and entrepreneurs, when they look to invest, they look to see where they have a competitive advantage and where can they succeed. And they come to Maine, they may love the quality of life and the safe communities and the natural environment that's just terrific. But then they say, well, can I make it here as a business owner? And the answer for the most part is no. And so they just don't set up shop here. So, but it hasn't come overnight. It's really been this over the course of the last generation. That's why we have the 6th highest tax burden in the country. And you know, our personal income tax kicks in at $20,000 a year. That's very punitive, not only to business owners, but to the people that work for these businesses. So that's what we have to really get at, Mark. And the way to get at that is to have a new attitude when it comes to capital formation and businesses and jobs. And really learn fundamentally that you only spend what you take in. And we've got to tighten our belts. We have to do it. There are some states that do it very well. Maine does not do it well. About 30% of our budget is spent on social service programs. And coming from a Catholic French-Canadian family, and a big-hearted family, you know, my mother was a nurse. I mean, you want to really take care of those that cannot provide for themselves. The problem that we have in our social services programs is that the benefits that we provide are now 2 and 3 times as generous as the services that are provided in other states. And there's also not a residency requirement here. So folks come up here on Monday and they get the driver's license on Tuesday, and on Wednesday they're in these programs. And it is not fair in 2 ways. It's not fair to the taxpayers, number one. And second of all, these programs were designed to help people become independent. It is not fair to trap them such they're permanently dependent on the state. That, to me, is a lack of family values at the state level. I believe in accountability and taking care of yourself, and show that good example to your children and to your grandchildren. Now, if you really need help, absolutely, we must take care of those. But if we can reform these programs, we'll have more money to really take care of those who can't take care of themselves. I call a spade a spade. I'm just going to tell it just straight up. There is no silver bullet that's going to save our state. There is none. No. There is no big idea that we can spend a lot of money on and expect magic. We spend $200 million a year on developing our economy. It's a maze of tax expenditures and marketing programs. It doesn't work. If it did, we wouldn't be having this discussion today. So the way to do it, Mark, is to get back to basics. Maine is like a baseball team that can't field a ground ball, but we swing for the fence every year when the game's tied in the 8th inning. We need to fundamentally learn that number one, we need a new attitude in Augusta when it comes to businesses and jobs. Businesses are not the enemy. They employ our people. So we need to do everything we can to help them. That's the first thing. Second thing, we must get a handle on spending. Because the reason we're driving away businesses, Mark, and the reason why Maine isn't competitive anymore in attracting businesses is because it's such an expensive and complicated place to do business in, compared to New Hampshire or the Carolinas or almost any other state. That's why we have such a horrible business climate. So Maine, in my opinion, does a poor job attracting jobs because we haven't gotten down to the basics. We need to fundamentally learn to spend only what we take in, just the way your family is, Joan. When you have to tighten your belt, Augusta should too. And when we're able to do that, then we can start reducing taxes, as Lisa was mentioning, in a meaningful way to help families and also create incentives. There's another thing we can do that doesn't cost anything. It's to simplify our business regulations. I mean, all these hoops that folks have to jump through. Lisa was mentioning, or maybe you were, Mark, or someone was mentioning how difficult it is to do the paperwork and the reporting. It's just on and on and on. So what happens is folks come here and they say, I'd rather locate in New Hampshire or Connecticut or New Jersey because it's easier to do business. So that's something that doesn't cost us anything. But it's going to be tough to do, but we have to do it. The state of Maine is responsible for $9 billion in unfunded liabilities in two programs. One is the retirement benefits, one is the health care benefits for our state employees and our teachers. In 5 years, the annual payments to those two programs reach $700 million a year. $700 million a year, and it stays there. So we're having a problem plugging a $350, $400 million hole. The next governor, including these numbers, looking at something like a $1.2 billion hole, is because we're living beyond our means. We have to get a handle on this. But that's what you were talking about, and that's part of the cost structure, Mark. We just can't be everything to everybody. One of the businesses that I ran, and I talked to, Mark was asking this, I think, about the businesses I ran, was an investment management firm. We handled about $5 billion of worker pension funds. And I dealt with this very serious fiscal issue in one of the businesses I ran. I understand that issue very well. And it's going to be so important for our next governor to make sure he or she has the experience to deal with these very complicated, very serious fiscal issues. This is the 600-pound gorilla in the room right now.